Sì. No. Okay. 2 more minutes? No, maybe we should go because then we get to... Yeah, let's start. Hello, everybody. Welcome to this session. Thank you very much for being here. So we're going to talk today, as you know, about news gathering and verification. First, I want to introduce myself. My name is Michaela Cancela-Kiefer, and verification is kind of something in my DNA because I've worked for a news agency, Agence France Presse, for 20 years. I am now a teaching fellow at the Google News Lab. I have been there for almost a year, and I will go back to France Presse in a few months. So thanks for being here. I just want to start by showing you a video to talk about the Google News Initiative and why we're doing this in a way.
Access to reliable quality information should be a right of anybody, wherever they live.
Today, the journalism industry faces many challenges.
Readership has become more fragmented, and in many ways, the experience of journalism has become more fragmented.
How can news organizations remain relevant in the digital age?
The traditional world of news media is shifting ever more quickly.
70% of people can't distinguish between a real story and fake news.
Disinformation is on the rise. Trust in media is falling. Journalists are having to do more with less. Should be a right.
So let me start with this. This is a sentence or motto that has been with me for like more than 20 years. I don't want to tell you my age. It was a sentence from my professor of journalism at Columbia University, one of them. His name was Professor Isaacs, and he kept telling us this. And this is about critical thinking, and this is about not trusting anything. And this is about sources, right? I'm showing you this because I want to talk about sources for a few minutes in the context of digital age. We've all seen this probably, at university or later. How do we decide on the quality of a source, and how do we do our news gathering work? Well, I've made this this graphic with colors to remind myself what a good source is and what a dangerous source is. And of course, you know, a primary source, the person who's really at the center of the story, the mayor announcing a decision, the president of a company, the forensic expert looking at a body, is a great source, is a high quality source. And then, well, we get further and further away. So, for example, a spokesperson can be a bad source because that person will be biased, or simply because the information could have been distorted on the way by 2 or 3 other sources, right? And if we get to whatever is online, we could get into the danger zone. So anything you do, even with the tools we are going to see now, I think, has to be combined as much as possible with a physical source or with a source that is in the green. Okay, and I have a few examples. One of them is from here. I don't know how many Italians are there in the room. Okay, so you might know Tommaso De Benedetti. Tommaso De Benedetti is an Italian journalist who actually likes to test us, like the hackers would test the security system. So what he does is that he creates false information to see how we actually really do our verification job or not. So he likes to actually kill famous people, you know, J.K. Rowling, or in this case, Greek director Costa Gravas, and see if somebody picks the news from Twitter. In this case, it happened, and the Associated Press had to do a kill, which is something very hard for a news agency to do, because, well, they believed the tweet by a fake account of the Greek Ministry of Justice. So anything that you find online, you have to be careful, even sometimes with accounts that look verified, right? So whatever you find, if it's in the red, try to get to the green, try to cross-check with other sources in the green. And now we're going to talk about advanced search techniques, which can help you check, and especially which can help you get information of good quality really fast and give you time to do more verification, more reporting job with real sources. How many of you know advanced search techniques on Google or other search engines? You, of course, because you're a specialist. Okay, so the idea is to get to this point, to get to a point where you are really getting what you want. And to get to that point, sometimes you have to have less results. You know that when you do a generic search on Google, you're going to have lots and lots of pages, and you might, you know, get tired after the 3rd page. And so you're not getting what you really want. So search refinements will allow you to do that. So we have a list. You can take a picture if you want. These are the most used search refinements. And basically what they will do is give you less results and give you more time to open the links and investigate a little bit more. Okay, so you would use, for example, the minus sign. I will show you nice examples of many of them. Minus sign, if you are looking for information about the animal, the jaguar, and you don't want the car, well, you can get rid of the car. You would use the minus sign and do not leave a space, because otherwise the search engine will not understand it's an order to not open links with the word car. The search in sight, I have here an expert in front of me. It's a technique that is really used a lot in verification and by fact checkers. What it does is that it will allow you to open just the pages in one site, and it will probably do it better than if you go to that page and use the search engine. because obviously the search engine of Google is very efficient, but also because you will be able to combine it with other search refinements, such as limiting your search in a time frame. So if I want information about the bank system in Italy from an official source from the government, I would do it this way, site.governo.it. I would combine it with a search in time to have less results and have time to open those links. And now let me tell you about this really interesting, funny example of how to use the search in Site. How many of you remember this story that appeared in the New York Times in September 2018? An anonymous source talking about a resistance inside the Trump administration. Do you remember this? Yes? So how would you start your investigation if you had to find out who wrote this? Where would you start? This is going to help us for the rest of the session. Anybody wants to say something about how they would start?
By reading the article.
Exactly. This is the main character of the story, is the article itself. So let's start by the article. Let's look at the article and let's see if you do see something strange. I used to be based in Colombia and I used to receive statements by the guerrilla of the FARC. And one of our favorite activities of several journalists was to try and see if they were using some new wording, to see if there was some new leader writing those statements. So here is kind of the same. So several American journalists started looking at the text very closely, and they found a word that is not very common in the United States, which is the word lodestar. So what they did, they went to the site of the White House and looked for that word, and they used just the trick, the combination I showed you before. Site, ... whitehouse.gov, and the word lodestar. Do you see what happened? What the results are about? They all take us to, at least 4 of them take us to one person, Vice President Pence. So does that mean that it's him? That he's the author?
No, it could be somebody who knows he uses that word a lot.
Exactly. It could be someone who works for him, someone who writes his statements, for example, or someone who wants us to think that it's him. So again, we should not take anything for granted, but this is an interesting way to remember how you can use Site and the many uses you can have for this combination. You can also make a search just in a domain. For example, if you're looking for information from governmental sources in general, or from information from NGO sources in general, or education, you would do site, ... and then .gov, or if you're looking for NGOs, then .org or .edu. You can also look for similar pages. What is this? Let's imagine that you want to have a list of stock pictures agencies, like Getty, and you want to have access other sites like Getty. You would do related ... and gettyimages.com, right? And then you see we have a list, Shutterstock, stock photos. I've done another one recently, for example, I don't know if I have it here, no. I was looking for museums in Bilbao, and I typed the address of the Guggenheim, which is the one I know, and I had a perfect list of other sites of museums in Bilbao, okay? Then there is this tip, a very important one as well, combined with the site search, which is selecting the format of the document you're looking for. So basically in journalism, there are 2 formats that are very interesting for us. It's the PDF and the XLS, the Excel. Does anyone can tell me what kind of documents come in a PDF? Tons of documents, but official documents very often, judicial decisions, of course reports, studies. So depending on what you're looking for, you might want to specify the format. So if you're looking for an act, if you're looking for an official decision from an administration, you might go to the site of that administration and combine your search with the format, with file type .and.pdf, right? If you're looking for data, then you might combine the search with XLS. If you're looking for this report, you can do this without file type, but this would be a nice example. And I actually recommend this white paper on how Google fights disinformation. It gives you a lot of information about how the algorithm works regarding disinformation. So if we want data about the Greek economy from the World Bank, we would do it this way. Greece, site, worldbank.org, file type, .and.xls, right? You can also do advanced search on Twitter. Does anyone know the advanced search on Twitter? You do? So advanced search on Twitter, to get there, you just need to go to Google, type advanced search on Twitter, and go to this link. And it's very nice, especially when, you know, we are in a time of elections in Italy and in the rest of Europe. If you need, for example, to check what a person has said over the time about a specific topic, you can go there. So you would put their address, their Twitter account here, and you would actually put the subject here. So if we want to know what Luigi Di Maio has said about banks, you would do it this way. You can also do it to check specific quote. For example, you know, when there is a controversy about someone saying something on Twitter 3 years ago, instead of going to Twitter and spending years going back and back and back, you can go here, you would put that exact quote here in the second bar, and then inform of the date. You can also have like a time frame just for a month, and you would get there faster, okay? You could also investigate about what a person has said about another one, the mentions. Then you would put the name of the original account here and the name of the person they are talking about here. You can also check the conversations between two, what a person has replied to another, putting the account, the second account here. If some of you are doing it now, once you do your search, you will have the results, and you need to do a second thing for it to work well. When you go to a Twitter page, you will see on the left side, you will see that you have other filters. And one of them is the quality filter. That means Twitter is trying to give you results that are really relevant for you based on, you know, your friends or whatever the algorithm decides. So if you want to get rid of that, and you need to do it for that advanced search, you have to deactivate this. So you will put filtro de qualità disattivato, quality filter deactivated, and then on the top bar of the search, you will have to select most recent tweets. Otherwise, you would not have a chronological order. And then if you do these two things, you can have all the tweets and about a subject or about a person. You can also search Instagram from Google. How many of you are using this? No? So what you will do here is use the search refinements we have seen so far, but applied to Instagram. So you would tell Google, please open only Instagram. So you would do site.and.instagram.com, and you could combine it with other types of search refinements. This one I show on screen tells Google to take you to links of accounts that have the name Tibet in their URL. So like that, you make sure you really open links of Instagram accounts that talk about Tibet, because otherwise you can have, like we see here in the first link, you can have all kinds of comments about Tibet linked to the hashtag, right? And you can use it like this, for example, using the minus sign to take away some results, or like this. This is a very nice example I found last week on Bellingcat. Bellingcat is a verification site that I like very much, and it's great to learn about verification because they tell you exactly what step they take for everything. So if you want to learn how they did it, to then apply yourself to your own investigations, you can go and inspire yourself. So Bellingcat was actually investigating about convicted murderer in the Netherlands who at some point had an Instagram account open, which is kind of crazy, but it's true. He was on the run and he had an Instagram account. And they actually didn't want to look at his post, but they wanted to look at the relationships he could have, people related to him. And so the way they did it is they went to Instagram, they did this search site, Instagram.com, about this profile, okay? But they took out his actual profile, which is basically what it led to, is to get his posts in other accounts, but not his own posts. So yes, they actually found things. And from there, what you have to do in this case is copy and paste and go to Google Translate to see what he's talking about. It's another tool that is very often used for verification. So if you don't remember everything I just said, just think about this. This is the advanced search configuration. You can go here on the right side of the page, click here, and you will have the list of search refinements, okay? And now let's talk about verification. Anybody knows this story? No? Well, this is just to say that obviously disinformation and falsification and propaganda are not new. So this is a picture of Mussolini on a horse, and on the left side, he stands like a hero on his horse, and on the right side, there is a man holding the horse just in case, okay? So the man holding the horse just in case has been taken out, and, well, this kind of manipulation has become, as you well know, very easy right now. And I want to talk about this story for 1 minute, just to talk about the method. This is from El País, 2013, I believe. Anybody knows the story behind this? No? So, well, this was when everybody was talking about Chavez's health, so everybody was trying to figure out how he was doing, and a nurse in Cuba saw a video on YouTube from 2008 of a man undergoing surgery, and the man looked like Chavez. So she did something very simple that all of us here, I believe, can do, which is doing a screenshot of that video, okay? She did a screenshot, and she sold it to a photo agency, and the photo agency sold it to El País. And it was, of course, very difficult for El País. They had to stop the print in the middle of the night. The next day, the newspapers weren't all over the city as usual, and they had to talk and to explain what had happened to them. And as you see, it's really easy, okay? The good news is that it's also quite easy to verify, because most false information based on images are done in such a basic way that in a very basic way, learning, using the tools we're going to see now, you can detect them. The first tool you need to use is your own eyes. So, do you see what the problem is here? No? Nobody can just try? The waves, it's not exactly the waves. In fact, the problem is that you have, well, okay, the context is important to know the context here. This is supposed to be a military exercise, and the picture comes from the North Korean news agency. And what happened is that, you know, the boats are, you know, kind of multiplied. There are more boats than in reality. And in fact, it's the same. And on the back also. But, you know, I talked about AP. I want to be fair. This is actually something that happened to Agence France Presse. So France Presse picked up this photo by the North Korean agency and didn't see the manipulation. And it was, well, the tools we're going to see now would help you do so. And before we start, you know, just a few more words. This was a study published in Science last year, which tells us that false news spread 6 times faster. And why? Well, basically because people think they're new and because they provoke strong emotions. Indignation, sadness, surprise. That's why we need, many times we need to focus on images because, as you well know, images are a great way to provoke emotions in people, okay? And that's why sometimes disinformation, many times disinformation uses images. So another exercise that I want to do with you before we look at the tools, I would like you to tell me what bothers you in this image and why. And I'm really not going to talk until you do. I really want you to. Okay. The flag, okay. The flag is the centerpiece. But why? What's the problem with the flag? Is there a problem, actually? Shouldn't. The wind, exactly. And somebody said something else? What did you say? You said something. It looks unreal? Okay. Well, what you were doing unconsciously, you were detecting inconsistencies in the image. And the process now, the next time you look at an image like this, you just need to make this conscious. And to make this conscious, just think that an image is a witness, like, you know, like you would interview a witness in the real life. If the witness tells you A at the beginning of the conversation and 20 minutes later this person says something that is contradictory, you will probably not trust this person, right? So same thing with an image. So an image has elements, organic elements to it that have to be consistent. In the case of the flag, you notice something strange because the colors are much more vivid than on the rest of the image. So that's the first inconsistency. There are other technical inconsistencies or consistencies that need to be in an image. So, for example, the light has to be consistent. The light also needs to be consistent with real life light, right? If somebody tells you this image was taken at noon and the light looks like an image taken at dawn, well, you might have a problem. Then there are elements in the story of the image also that have to be consistent. So that's what you said about the wind. You know, if there really was wind, this woman here, her hair would be like all crazy flowing, right? So once you have done that, okay, you already might have an idea that you need to be careful, but you can use the technology to help yourself. And oh, okay, the story. We will see. Well, this is, you're right, I should have told you the story. This was in Catalonia, October 1st, 2017. And, you know, in the middle of the independence drive in Catalonia, there were many fake news, false information, disinformation around that day, obviously from both sides. And this is one of them. This is one of the famous ones. So, okay, we see this image. It's kind of artistic in a way, more than anything else, because there is no You know, there is no violence involved. It doesn't look like, but it's a manipulation. So if we saw that image that day, one of the things we could do, or the following days, this is the basic tool of verification, is the GRAL, is the Google reverse image search. So how do you do that? You just go to Google Images, you click on the camera, and it will take you to a page like this, where you can upload the image. You have two ways to do it. One way will be to paste the image URL, and the other way will be to upload the image. I personally prefer to upload the image. It works better. So what Google will do is it will go look for similar images. And by looking for similar images, you will be able to see either images that are similar but with different elements on them, or you might find that that image has been used in another context, like 3 years ago. The good part about it is that by doing that, in 1 minute, you might detect a manipulation, and you don't need to get further, and you can go on and do something else. Especially, you know, if you're working on social media, on user-generated content, sometimes you really need to work fast and get on with your job. So this is a fast way to do it. If you find that that image was taken 3 years ago, okay, I'm done. I can go and do something else. So if you do a reverse image search with this image, in the middle of the page, I have taken it this way so it's more visual, but in the middle of your Google results page, you will have a block of images called similar images. And so you will open that and go see what the results are. And in this case, at some point, you would find this one, okay, without the flag. But then we might have a little problem. Which one is oldest? Which one is the original? Difficult to know, right? The original would be the oldest by definition. So there is another tool that can be used combined with Google or alone, which is a nice tool, which is TinEye. So TinEye works exactly like the Google reverse image search. You will go and upload the picture there or enter the URL, and it's going to do a reverse search with one additional element. If we use, for example, this picture, this was another picture used during the Catalan independence drive to denounce police brutality, actually. So if you take this picture to TinEye and you select a specific filter here, which is the oldest, it will give you right away the date, okay? So normally by default, it's set to best match. So just check oldest here, and as you see, this picture was from 2012. So you don't need to go further. You can go on with your job instead of having to call the police to know if there is an infant that has been gotten involved into a police brutality case. One more. So if you want, while we are talking, you can actually exercise yourself a little bit. I've put this link there with several pictures. These pictures were actually used on a Facebook profile about the Yellow Jackets in France. And it was also to denounce police brutality. And of course, you know, they are not from now. So I just want you to tell me now which one of them is obviously not from France, just with your eyes again.
It's the one on the right, because Policia is
exactly.
not a French
Exactly. Well, this is like the Chavez example. Many times it's really easy to detect things, okay? You just have to be very careful with the details, and you will see the manipulation. So while we talk, you can get to that link and try to train yourself. And if you have problems after the session, I'm ready to show you, okay? And if not, you can train yourself at home with that link by using either TinEye or Google reverse image search. For the two other images, you will find when they are from. I will tell you at the end, not now, okay? And what they are talking about. then you can have another problem. You know, in this case, for example, how can we tell where this image was taken? It's very difficult sometimes. You know, in the case of fires, I'm giving you this example because I was training a newsroom in the north of Spain a few weeks ago, and they actually told me a story about them buying pictures of California fires to illustrate fires in the north of Spain. Maybe if they had been able to check the metadata, they would not have had this problem. So what the metadata does is that it would tell you the location, it will tell you the moment a picture was taken, sometimes even the hour. Most phones do embed the metadata in the pictures. So when you're in a protest and you take a picture, it will probably have the metadata. If you take that picture directly to Twitter, and then if you, as in your verification process, download that picture and check the metadata, you might find very useful information. The only problem is that when people are actually doing fake, false information, of course, you will not have the metadata. So in this case, the verification is mostly to see if there is basic data, and if there isn't, it's a bad sign. If the person you're talking with, for example, you're talking with a witness, and he says, yes, I'm here, and I can send you pictures, and you know, you ask the person to send you pictures by email because you make sure like this the metadata will be there, because if they send it by WhatsApp, it will be erased. So if that person is not able to give you pictures with metadata, it's a bad sign. On the other hand, if it's a credible witness, it's just a second check that you're doing, and just to make sure everything is fine, okay? And one thing you need to know about the metadata also is that experts can modify them in Photoshop. So it's a way to check, but like we said at the beginning, it's never enough. You have to have other elements. So here is a little demonstration with another tool I like very much. It's called InVid. We're going to talk about it later, because it's like a very sophisticated tool that gives you several possibilities for verification. If you go to InVid, InVid is a plugin that you're going to install in Chrome or another navigator, and you upload a picture. This is what's going to happen. So this was taken yesterday with Barbara Asgarci, who actually gave a nice workshop yesterday also about verification. And as you see, we can absolutely see that it was taken at 1 PM yesterday, and here I have the GPS coordinates. So if I go to view GPS location, look what happens. We can see exactly on the map that we were at Hotel Brufani. It could be fantastic also, you know, if someone is telling you, if someone is in the middle of the woods, it could be a way to know in which place they are exactly. So, yes, you had a question?
I was wondering, do you have to put your location on your phone to see the GPS?
To see, I mean, if you're checking the metadata of somebody else, you won't act on your phone. The question was about if you have to put the location on your phone. It's the other way around. If the location is activated, yes, it will tell you, but you can also deactivate the location. For example, I have deactivated the location of my phone, okay? But many people don't. So if it's a credible witness, if it's somebody, for example, you met on social media while looking for user-generated content, it could be a nice way to double check. Then we have many tools also to check videos, and one of, yes, sure.
Is there a possibility now? I'm working with journalists. Yeah, I'm working with journalists in, you could say, dangerous countries like Yemen and in Afghanistan. Absolutely. And so on. How can you, and if they reveal where they are, it can be very dangerous for them. Is there a way so it's sort of imprinted, the metadata is imprinted but not mailed?
That's a very good point. That's a very good point. It's very important. Of course, you know, if this person are taking pictures for you as freelancers, and they upload it directly to the internet or via their Twitter account, somebody can be checking their location that way. Yeah. So they might try to avoid that.
And there's no possibility where it only goes into sort of where they have it, so it's not mailed when they do it, but when they want to keep it for later, the metadata is in there to prove where they have been.
I don't understand the question.
Is there a way where you can sort of not mail it, but still keep it with the photo?
Yeah, I mean, you will keep it on your phone and later put it on a pen drive, and yes.
Okay, so you can
yes.
take. Okay.
Yes.
I'll talk to you afterwards about how you do that.
Great. So with videos, one of the basic tools, it might sound funny, but it's actually to use the reverse image search. How would you do that? Well, this is a video. I'm not going to run it now because otherwise we're going to run out of time. But this was a video taken after Barcelona attacks. There was a shooting later that night in a beach place, like, you know, some 80 kilometers away from Barcelona. And so it was incredible user-generated content because you literally hear all the shooting. Imagine you are in that situation, you have to decide if you can use that content. Well, the first thing you can do, if you don't have time at that point to call a source, or because it's happening very far away in Yemen, let's say, is actually do a screenshot. You take a moment of the video where the image is quite clear, you do a screenshot, you save it as a photo file. This is important, you know, like a JPEG file. Don't save it like a PNG, for example, and you do a Google reverse image search. And with this video, this is what happened. I had all these images, so if you look at the first 8 images, it's the same video that has become viral. But then if I open the links below, these are other sources taking pictures that tell me the same story as the first one. Same sidewalk, same colors on the background, and then if you open the links, you can see that there are media actually on the ground reporting. So this could be a nice way also to cross-check one single video. You can also use, for videos found on social media, the YouTube data viewer. The YouTube data viewer, so to find it, you type YouTube data viewer, and then you paste the URL of the video you want to verify. This works for YouTube videos. And it will do 2 things. The first one, it will give you the video ID of that video. What that means is that if you copy and paste into Google this code, into Google or into YouTube search, it will take you to the channel of the person who has actually uploaded that video. Why do you want to do that? Well, you want to do that to check the profile of the person, to see, you know, if we were talking about the shooting we saw before, we might want to see if that person really lives in that place, if that person has taken videos of that place before, or if that person is just, you know, copying and sending out viral videos all over the place, okay? If that person is a credible witness, then you can contact the person via YouTube. You know that via YouTube sometimes you can send messages, so that would be also a nice way. Second, it's going to tell you the upload date and the upload time, which, of course, if the video was uploaded 4 years ago, you know it's not true. So you can go on and do something else, okay? And third, it will do a reverse image search, not on 1, but on 4 thumbnails of that video. So it multiplies the possibility of cross-checking. I'm going to try, do we have time for this one? This one, you can find it on internet. It's a video about a woman who is being chased by a bear. She's doing snowboarding. Have you seen it? It was quite popular. It was in Japan. Everybody went crazy saying, is this true? Is this not true? I invite you to find it online later and see it. It's quite funny. Well, basically the protagonist, the main character of the story is the bear, and we want to know if this is true or not. So the way to do it, like with many other videos, would be to look at it really closely. And if you don't have an edition program that allows you to go slowly, then you can use this one online, which is called Watch Frame by Frame. So you go to Watch Frame by Frame, you paste your URL there, and you will have a screen like this one. So if you play here, it will be the normal speed. And if you use these buttons, it will take you to frame by frame. So you will be able to look very closely at the parts of the video where the bear appears and see if there is something strange about it. What usually happens when videos are modified is that you have something strange in the edition, like an element that appears abruptly and disappears. And that you can detect with this kind of tools by watching frame by frame. If you do the exercise alone with this one, you will see that the bear appears twice exactly on the same position, running at the same speed, and in fact it's probably a computer-generated image. But it had more than 9 million views, so it worked well. And to go back to InVid, InVid has many possibilities, and one of the things that InVid does is that it lets you do reverse search not only on YouTube videos. I'm going to show you now. You can take a picture of this. This is little explanations of each features, and one of them is this one, which I think is really nice, is that when you do your reverse image search, you can do it on YouTube videos, but also Facebook, Twitter, Dailymotion, Dropbox, and more importantly, it will also take you to Yandex, which is the Russian search engine, and Baidu, the Chinese. So it multiplies the possibilities of finding things. It also has a magnifier. So if we had used the magnifier for the picture by the North Korean agency, we might have detected that there were 2 replicated boats. And it has also this. I want to talk about this because we haven't talked so far about forensic. It lets you do a forensic analysis. Do you know what a forensic analysis of images is? Well, basically what it does is it looks into the compression of the image. If somebody has added something on an image, it's very likely that the compression of that part of the image will not be the same. And that's what the forensic analysis will detect. Now, it's a delicate tool. You have to be careful when you use it because you can have false positives. What I mean by that is that if you work on an image and, for example, one part of the image is a little bit dark and you want to push up the light, then if you do a forensic analysis, it might tell you that it has been modified and in fact it was just a slight addition, right? But it could be a very interesting tool if you combine it with other verification tools. So if we apply it to the flag, we take the flag to the forensic, and as you see here, we see probably a level of compression that is different for the flag, okay? So it would be an additional element to find out. And then just to finish, I want to talk about the possibility for GeoTools to be really good allies in verification. In this case, what happens is that the image is not going to be your enemy anymore, but it's going to be your ally. And what you want for that is to find images that are neutral, to check other images. So one very good example of that is this story by the BBC News Africa. All the verification people were crazy about it and passing it to each other a few months ago. It happened in July. This was well, what happened in July is that a video became viral about a killing, a mass killing in Cameroon, and Cameroon authorities said it wasn't there, and so the BBC decided to check. So what they did, like we saw from the beginning, is look at the document very, very closely. They tell it in a thread, and so, you know, when you look at any document, especially, you know, images, there are so many information that you can find there. You know, the geography, the way people are dressed, the street signs, you know, even the time. In this case, for example, you can see on the image that it's very dry. It's dry season. The trees, the weapons, any kind of thing. So they looked at all of that, and they started by actually the mountains on the back. So they took the relief, and then they went to Google Earth, and they found that very mountain thanks to Google Earth. So that helped them kind of determine in what area this had happened. And so the BBC went back and forth from with technology tools and with investigation on the ground. And at the end, they managed to actually not only find out that it did happen in Cameroon and where exactly, but also who committed the crime. So for that, you would use Google Earth Pro, which is an application you can download on your computer. And it's quite easy to use. I don't know if some of you here like to play with flight simulators. Basically, the way to use it is the same way. So here, well, this is to zoom in, then this is to go around, and this would change you the horizon, the perspective, up and down. You can also use Google Street. It seems stupid, but it's really, really helpful as well. For example, if you're interviewing a witness, you can ask the person where she is, and you can ask the person what it looks like around, and check on Google Street if it's credible. You could also use Google Street View to check videos, to see, you know, you look at all the information you see on the background and go to Google Street to try to find out if the video was taken where the person says it was taken. These are some map alternatives. Bing Maps, because it offers greater zooms, more detail than Google. Yandex, it has street views for parts of Eastern Europe. And Wikimapia. Conclusion, just use everything at your disposal and combine it. Combine it with real reporting, obviously. And just to finish, we talked about Bellingcat at the beginning, and I'm finishing with this one, the one about the criminal who used to brag about everything on Instagram. So they actually managed to find out where he was in Iran, and some person he was related to, and they combine everything, like we just said. For example, they saw this picture on Instagram, the picture of the car, and they looked at the plaque and put that number into Google search, and found out that actually the car was rented, so they could find out who actually was renting out that car. So they found a physical person who had some kind of relationship with the guy. With this one, they found that in his Instagram account, and they managed to localize it through Yandex, okay? And this is the one we saw before, the search using the minus sign. And we have a little bit of time for questions. If you want to learn about tools, more tools, you can go to the training center by Google News Initiative. There are specific courses on all the tools. And I invite you also to go to First Draft, which has very, very nice tutorials about verification in several languages, including, you know, French, Spanish, Dutch, and checklists that are very useful. Thank you very, very much. This is the address of the News Lab support. If you have questions, And yeah, we have 5 minutes for questions. No questions? Anybody in the meantime found out about the pictures I showed you before? Yes.
No, I just wanted to add one more tip that has saved me a lot of time.
I love that. Yes, which one?
Because I've had it happen that I saw a picture or a video and I opened, oh yeah, I'm going to use this tool and that tool and oh, geolocation.
Yeah.
And look at the shadows, and I would end up finding nothing. And then I would just check the comments under that tweet, and there was this guy in the third spot saying, oh yeah, that's that bar on that street, and this video is actually from 2013, and you can just look it up on Google using...
It's true, it's true. So one very important thing now is collaboration.
Yeah, check the comments.
You know, I heard a few weeks ago, Clara Jimenez Cruz from Maldita in Spain talk about this. Fact checkers talk to each other, and sometimes they just... tell each other when something is fake as well. Yes?
Do you take it further? Do you ever prosecute people who are doing these fake news, and with all the impact that actually has, and especially like what you're saying is that they can actually make money, and Google makes money at the same time because people want to distribute that more because it has a sensational impact?
Well, first I have to say I don't speak on the name of Google. I'm a teaching fellow. And, well, you know, prosecution in that case would be, and now I talk as an ex-judiciary reporter, prosecuting has something to, somebody has to be affected. So it has to be the direct victim. You know, for example, someone's picture being used to tell a different story, they could prosecute for defamation, the victim. Or you can read the book about how Google fights disinformation, the white book. It will tell you how exactly the algorithm works regarding disinformation. Like if a news site or a alleged news site is disseminating false news, and you can determine that in fact it's not a news outlet, then obviously it will have consequences in terms of finding the sites on search. It will not be on top. This is written in the white book.
That caused people to lose their jobs after exposing them for spreading fake stories.
Ah, yes?
Yeah,
you've caused people to...
So lying on the internet is not illegal.
Yeah.
It might break terms of service of Google AdSense or other ad providers, and it might also get you in trouble with your employer. So I've actually managed to find out from some fake news sites who was behind them, and yeah, people have lost their jobs because of that. So
wow.
They were not prosecuted, but yeah, I think.
But there were consequences.
Because you exposed them.
Yeah. Being on a peace mission in Bosnia is not compatible with spreading immigrant and Muslim hate as a side hustle, apparently.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much. I have to give space to the next speakers. Thank you for attending the session.